out to get married. And this just made a big difference in how soon. So they kind of pushed the marriage back. My daughter's like, nope, this is what we need to do. We need to get some things in order. I was amazed. She heard you, but she'll never hear me.
That's okay. Sometimes it needs to be a voice that's not a parent, right? Might be saying the same things, but it's not the parent.
It worked.
Yeah, well, that's great. Good to hear that.
You do good work. How are you, Joy?
I'm good. I can't complain today. I can't complain. I just shared the pictures I took of the students yesterday, but Kyle was so excited to have
I'm happy.
There. Yeah, he was. He was like, we can do this again. So
I'm going to be working with Carlos to make sure we have a nice contingent for him on Thursday.
Okay, perfect.
It might mean buying sub sandwiches, but I'll get them.
Okay, nice. And Mike, maybe we'll give it about another minute or so before we get started, just to see if we have some more individuals. I know that there's like a forum this morning, so some of our other 24/7 exec board members are there, so they wouldn't be able to make it today. But of course, I'm recording it. I'll share it out, and at some point, we have our new project assistant, so we'll get them even all not only sent out but uploaded to our YouTube site, so people can access them there. And of course, they can. I've been on your site, and so you have a bunch of good presentations on there as well. So
okay. The more platforms we can use to share the information, the better.
Yes, I super agree. And Mike, you have it lets you share. You can share your screen. Just want to be sure that.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. I'm on from my iPad this morning. And so.
Yeah, looks like I can. And as always, Joy, you keep me straight. If I'm talking about something and you're not seeing on the screen, be sure to let me know.
Okay, perfect. Mike, is this the last one in that series that we've been doing on investing or?
It's the last one on investing in the series. That's correct.
Okay, perfect. So if you haven't seen the previous ones, definitely email me. Like I said, I'll get them on our YouTube, but email me and I can actually get it sent out to you quicker. But these have been just really game changing when you think about finances and investing your money. And so definitely, I know we'll probably host another session, but if you are like me, starving for that information now and want to build on what you learned in your toolkit this morning, just shoot us an email and we will definitely send out those recordings to you. And so as always, Mike, we thank you so much for taking your Saturday morning to be here and continue to share your knowledge and your wisdom so that we can all build wealth in our community. And so whenever you're ready to get started, super excited about this one. It's been a great one, as we mentioned, in a series of conversations we've had on investing. And so this wraps that up. But again, we'll come back to it and you can feel free to reach out for more information that we have previously on it. So, all righty, Mike, and I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you, Joy. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started with the PowerPoint here. Okay, so let's start first with a review from our previous study on investing. As a reminder, the financial industry, financial services industry, they create products for them, not you. So it's very important for us to recognize that. Products are simply marketed to you. They're marketed in a way to try to convince you to invest in that product. Our goal is to find the right products and avoid the wrong products. And most products in the industry are the wrong products because they're very expensive. They're very expensive. They have high fees. And when you're paying high fees for your investments, you're ending up with less return. And so the goal here is pretty simple. You want to cut your fees so you end up with most of the return instead of the financial services industry. And that takes us to no load index mutual funds. No load meaning no commission. You should never, ever, ever pay a commission when investing your money. And investing in index mutual funds simply means you're owning thousands and thousands of companies all over the world, if you like, and at a very, very low cost. Specifically, you want to get that cost as low as 0.1% or less. 0.1% or less. More review. The media. The media is not your friend. The media is the enemy in many respects when it comes to dealing with your money. People get on the television, the radio, the internet to sell products, to push a certain mentality and attitude toward predicting the future of markets. Those people should be avoided. They will cause you more harm than good. Most financial advisors and most life insurance should be avoided. And the reason is those are commission-based salespeople. They are not investment experts. They're simply sent out to pull in your money so the industry can make money off of your money. So we have to learn how to avoid most of the helpers out there who are simply glorified salespeople trying to find ways to make more money off of your money, not for you, but off you. Let's not forget about the crooks. So far we've been talking about the legal ways in which people take money from you. Then we have the illegal ways, and there are a lot of crooks in this industry who are doing something illegal, but it's not so easy to identify. The crooks in this industry look very important. They wear suits and ties. They speak well. They look like experts, but there's really a con artist behind the scenes. So educating yourself on this subject will also help you to avoid the crooks. And then, of course, one of the biggest enemies we have, and we will always have, is us. It's our emotions. We have to learn to harness those emotions, manage them. We can't eliminate them, but just because the market's going down, for example, doesn't mean we sell our investments. It actually means we get excited if we're still putting money in because we're buying shares at a lower cost. So it's very important not to freak out when markets go up and down, because that's what markets do. They go up and down. We ride that market just like a roller coaster. We ride the ups and the downs, putting money in consistently over time. As you prepare to invest, always look at your debt. Before you're putting much money in investments, if you have high interest rate debt, in this case, over 6%, you'd be wise to take your extra savings and put it toward the debt rather than the investments. If you have a debt with an 8% interest rate and you pay extra on that debt, you're earning a guaranteed 8% on your money. You want to take that. You want to pay off the high interest rate debt before doing much in the way of investing. The one caveat to that is, if you have any matching money at work, you always want to capture matching money. Whether that's 100% or 50% on the dollar, that's a guaranteed 100% or 50% gain. Never pass up matching money. And of course, always set some money aside for emergencies. So you can do that in the bank, in the credit union, or my preferred place, a Vanguard brokerage account in a low risk fund like a bond index, which I'll show you today. Become a great saver. You can be a great investor for years and decades, but if you don't learn how to save consistently a decent chunk of your money, it's going to be hard for your capital to grow very much because you're not saving enough. The goal here is to be a great saver and a great investor. You pull those two things together, amazing things can happen. And then, of course, understand there's risk in everything we do. Everything we do has risk. Yes, even that money's sitting in the bank. Inflation risk is eating up that money every day. So we have to be very careful when we think something is safe. The truth is, there is no safe investment. There is no investment that doesn't have a risk attached to it. So the key for us is to identify the risks we want to take and how to manage those risks along our lifetimes. A little bit of review on asset allocation. Always identify your goals. What are you investing for? What's your time horizon? Your time horizon could be much longer than just you and your 88 or 90-year time span. It could be over 100 years. It could be 200 if you're investing for your kids and grandkids. So be thinking about that when you decide how much to have in stocks, because stocks tend to give us the best return over time with more volatility, the ups and downs happening in the short term. Then the risk tolerance. How much can you put up with? Markets going down, you'll see the value of your account go down. We shouldn't let that bother us. We realize that that is part of what it takes to get a decent return. That's the price we take, the price we pay to get that decent return over time. No risk, no return. We just want to take the right amounts of risk. And then your tax situation and income needs. So the tax situation, when you're working, do you put money in traditional or Roth? So my general advice is, as a single person, if you have money going into a 401k or a 403b, if you're single and you make under 60,000, I'd put money in Roth. If you're over 60,000, I'd put money in traditional. Same goes for a couple. Under 120,000 combined, Roth. Over 120,000 combined, traditional. You're trying to figure out the best way to pay your taxes, either now or later. And then your income needs deals with retirees. How much income do you need from your portfolio in retirement? So all these things can change over time as we go through our lifespan. So as always, we always want to identify where all our money's at. And that means everywhere. Cash, savings bonds, mutual funds, anything. Get that grand total, add it up. And if you're married, get that grand total. Get everybody's money added up to know what your grand total is. In this example, we have a $400,000 portfolio. Good chunk of money is in a 403b, got some money in a Roth IRA, an old retirement account that's out there sitting, some cash value life insurance that you don't need anymore. You got a bank savings, got some savings bonds from many years ago, even have some money socked in a drawer. So as we add all that up and we look at how that money's allocated, we look at about a 42% stock, 58% bond allocation, a very low risk, market risk portfolio. The question is, can we do better? Because we also identify that 350,000 of that money is in markets, and you're paying on average 1.88% fee on that 350,000, coming to $6,580. To the average observer, that might not look like a lot of money, but I think you and I both know it's a great deal of money, and we'll see just why. Then, once you identify what you have, what do you want? What do you want your allocations to be in stocks versus bonds and cash? And once you figure that out, then you start to properly allocate based on your individual situation In this example, the individual decided they want an 80-20 mix, 80% in stocks, 20% in bonds. And in this case, we're looking at, in dollar amounts, 320,000 in stocks, 80,000 in bonds. This is a pretty nice little sweet spot. This is where I keep my allocations. You want to get as much of a return as you can while managing that risk and keeping those fees as low as possible. You want to diversify properly all over the world. So when it says broadly, you want to own entire markets. For example, the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund owns all the public companies in America. That is broad diversification. You want to add negative correlated pieces. All that means is we want something in the portfolio to go up while other pieces are going down. So high quality bonds tend to go up when stocks are going down. That is one example of a negative correlated asset class. And then don't forget, every dog has its day. And that simply means every asset class will do better in different time periods. Don't think for a minute that you've chosen the wrong asset class. Well, for example, let's say bonds today. Just because bonds are not performing well doesn't mean they won't perform well over the next 3, 6, 12 months. So we own different asset classes because we don't know the future. And we diversify to reduce how much the portfolio drops in any given time period. And then we rebalance on occasion. And all that means is, if you're an 80-20 person like myself, I'm going to rebalance at 90-10. If the stock markets go zooming up and my portfolio hits 90% stocks, I'm going to go into my retirement accounts, buy some bonds, getting back to 80% stocks. And if stocks go down a lot, and I hit 70%, then I'm going to go in and buy stocks in my retirement accounts, getting back up to 80%. So I'm going to do that on occasion, but that's not going to happen very often. I personally rebalance about maybe 2 times a decade. So for the most part, the key here is properly allocating your portfolio and then leaving it alone. Let markets do its magic. You go live your life. And of course, get those fees as low as possible. You saw what it was before. With a new portfolio, just look how much we've reduced the fees by going to an all index portfolio. And that's a savings of $6,340 a year. And after 30 years, of course, the first portfolio versus the second portfolio versus cash. So as we look and we see a difference of over $4 million on a $400,000 portfolio after 30 years, whether you have a little money or a lot of money, an all index portfolio is going to serve you well for many years to come as you squeeze out the fees and own a decent allocation of stocks in the US and international as you own the world. And then an understanding that money sitting in cash, the green bar that you see, is really not safe money. Inflation has eaten that value up over time. So you even have less in that account. So again, it's hard for some folks to fully acknowledge this, but money in the bank is not safe money. Inflation is eating it up day after day after day. So another review on what drives your future returns. So what we do today tells us about our future. We want to make sure we own a nice combination of stocks and bonds, maybe some cash if you like, and some real estate. We know that the future is going to play out based on how much we are charged in fees. So we want to reduce those fees because we get those 2 things right, our asset allocation and our fees. It's going to dramatically increase our returns over time, as you saw with that previous illustration. Key here, focus on the portfolio return. Do not focus on each individual asset class return. The whole portfolio, that's what we're focused on. And we're trying to get a decent return while managing the risk on a day-to-day basis, on a year-to-year basis, on a lifetime basis. Don't forget the stew. So this example shows us what happens when we put in different asset classes inside a portfolio. This is called modern portfolio theory, where we take different risky assets like emerging markets, like maybe even small cap value, and we put them into a big stew with bonds and developed markets and real estate. And together, it makes for a really good stew. If you were to try to put one of them items in the stew only, it would not make a very good stew. But together, they balance each other out. And that's what we're looking for here is balance. So as a reminder, Vanguard is a good place to invest a good chunk of your money, if not all of your money, when possible, because you're never going to pay a sales load because there are no salespeople at Vanguard. You can pay ultra low fees in those low cost index funds. You have many different index funds to pick from. And then you can transfer high fee investments somewhere else over to Vanguard into those index funds. And if any of this seems a little daunting, don't let it be. You can always reach out to me. I will help you. But remember, I help people who want to help themselves. So you're the initiator. You're the one who's taking control, not just of your money, not just your investments, but your life. Here's a list of some of the Vanguard stock index funds. That first one owns the entire US market. That's the symbol that follows that fund. And that's the cost, the yearly cost of that fund. And so then the one below that is large international stock. The one below that is small international stock. The one below that is stock in commercial real estate in the US. And the one below that is small cap value, value-oriented small companies that tend to perform higher over time than the actual US market. So you can add a piece of all of this to a portfolio. That doesn't mean you have to, but scientifically, the research tells us it's a wise move. And then those bond index funds, easy place to keep your savings, a place where the volatility is low. They're not going to go up and down very much, but maybe you get yourself a 1, 2, 3% return over time. These bond funds own high quality bonds, meaning high quality US government and corporate bonds, no junk bonds, high yield funds. See, Wall Street can't sell junk bonds, but they can rename it high yield and they can sell a boatload of them. So be careful of how Wall Street names their funds because they're trying to market those funds to you, even if you don't understand them. When you own bonds, you want to own high quality bonds, and these two bond funds here do just that. And never forget this guy and what he has to say. The greatest investor of our time is giving us really good advice. We should listen. We should heed it. We should do it. So what did we learn from homework? I asked you in the past to look up your current asset allocation. And if you haven't yet, you want to do that. Where are you now? What is your current asset allocation? How much do you have in stocks and bonds and cash and real estate? And then what do you want it to be? So identify where it is, find out where you want it to be once you've started to ask yourself these questions. And then what is the portfolio cost that you're currently paying? What is the fee per investment you have within your portfolio? And then what needs to be done? So you've identified the information. How can you change it to better your situation for your future self? So a lot of this is knowledge, and all of you are gathering that knowledge today, and that's a wonderful thing. But it's the people who take action who change their lives. So be that person of action. learn, and do. So now we're going to investigate some retirement plans, because what I've spoken about on asset allocation and investing is sound, prudent advice. But the world is not always so easy to navigate around. Some people don't have very good retirement plans. So what you're going to have to do is get into your retirement plan and pick from the best options they offer. And sometimes that's not very good. So let's take a look at two different options. We'll start with the University of Northern Iowa retirement plan. Okay, Joy, do you see that readout there?
I do, the UNI plan.
Okay, so I have brought up the University of Northern Iowa plan. So if a person who's investing in that plan, all they would have to do is Google TIA, and then TIA retirement plan, University of Northern Iowa. And then you want to look at your investment options, view all investments. So as I go down here, now I'm looking at the different investments that are contained within here. What am I specifically looking for? I want to know what a fund owns and what that fund is costing me. That's what I want to know. Everything else is minutia. So for example, the Morningstar overall ratings, they mean nothing. Ignore the ratings, ignore stars. That's telling you about the past return. That has nothing to do with the future. The number one driver of future returns is going to be your asset allocation, what you own, and the fees. So in this example, we're right here under the expense ratio, the fees for this particular plan, as you look at it per mutual fund. So for example, American Century Emerging Markets Fund, Class R6. So we can dig into this, and what it's going to show us is that you own emerging markets outside the US. Well, it's good to own emerging markets as part of our portfolio. 0.91, that is way too expensive, way too expensive. So that immediately just discounted this fund. We're not going to pay somebody that much of a fee to invest in emerging markets. So we go down, there's an American Funds Europe Pacific Growth Fund. So that owns stock in Europe and the Pacific, which isn't bad, except it's at 0.46, way too high. So that just eliminated that fund. So now we go down, American Funds Mutual Investors Fund. Well, that doesn't tell us much of anything. We'd have to dig in there and see that it owns stock primarily in the United States. The fee, 0.27, still too high, still too high. So we're digging, we're going to go down and start looking at the different funds. Notice here, I have to hit show more. And I'm still looking for low fee funds. And as you can see, these are way too high, way too high. Now we're starting to get into some less expensive funds. So the life cycle funds own stocks and bonds all over the world. So in this plan, they're 0.10. The net expense is 0.10. So that's not bad. That could be an option for some people if they want to own a life cycle fund. Nothing wrong with the funds that are in the UNI plan here at 0.10. But we're going to keep looking. As we keep going down, lo and behold, we start to see some really low cost Vanguard index funds. So right here, Vanguard Institutional Index at 0.04. That is a great fund. So that fund owns the S&P 500, the largest 500 companies in the US at 0.04%. So that's a great fund. We want to have a good chunk of our investments in that. And then right below that is mid cap, and below that is small cap. So between the institutional index and the mid cap and the small cap, you're going to own the United States of America. That's the entire US economy. And as you can see, the fees are very low for each one of them, 04, 05, 04. So you might choose to own a portion of all those. There's the total bond at 0.05. If you want to own some bonds in this portfolio, you could do that. And then below that is the international stock index, which owns the world outside the US, Europe, Pacific, pretty much everywhere at 0.08, another really good low fee fund. So based on what somebody wanted to own in this fund, let's say they did not want to own any bonds in this particular fund, they wanted all stocks, they could do something as simple as 25% institutional index, 25% mid cap, 25% small cap, 25% international index, and they'd be done. And then they would send new money there with every monthly contribution that comes in, buying low when the markets go down and buying higher when they go up. And then as they got older, if they wanted to add some more bonds to that portfolio, they could certainly do that. So by understanding what we're looking at in our own particular retirement plan, hopefully we can see some pretty good options that we can invest in. And that is the case at UNI. That is not the case at Hawkeye. So now I'm going to take you over to the Hawkeye plan, because the Hawkeye plan is a little closer to what many retirement plans out there look like. So this is the Hawkeye retirement plan through TIA. And right there at 0.22 is the best you're going to get at Hawkeye. 0.22, that equity index account right there. 0.22, you own the entire US economy at 0.22, which isn't bad, but it's not good, right? We just got done with UNI, and now we're having to pay 5 to 6 times the cost to own a similar investment. Now, why is that? Well, because all of Hawkeye's plan is wrapped in an annuity. Every single investment at Hawkeye has an annuity wrapped into it, and annuities cost you more money. The fees are higher. Now, this is not Hawkeye's fault. This was created decades ago, mistakenly, and they're waiting on the Iowa legislature process to fix this. And until they do, every single Hawkeye individual investor within this plan pays more money to TIA needlessly. Meaning, TIA is making about $3 million a year for doing nothing, absolutely nothing. They just make it extra because of the wrap of annuities within this plan. So one of these days, when the Iowa legislative process can actually do something and accomplish this, they will be helping all of the community colleges throughout the state of Iowa, because every community college has this issue. And until it gets fixed, those individual investors are stuck with this. Now, some of you may have a fund that's in a 401k that has similar fees or higher. And what's happening there, it's called revenue sharing. Basically, you as the employee are paying for your 401k. They're adding fees, advisory fees, extra fees that the business owner doesn't have to pay. And so every employee pays by adding extra fees to the investments you have. It's similar to what is happening at Hawkeye. It's wrong. It's a mistake. You should raise hell and do something about it. But the reality is, in the real world, that does happen. So you want to identify your investment options within your particular plan, because every plan is unique. You cannot say every plan is the same. So for example, John Deere, they have a wonderful 401k, negotiated beautifully for their individual employees. Let's see here. You have some other companies in town, not so good. And I'll leave it at that. Now let's go down some more, show more. We keep adding. Well, Right now, it's not allowing me to do that. In normal times, by show more, it will show more of the investments. And what you would see within the Hawkeye plan, you see some Vanguard index funds, which is a good thing. But the problem is they're loaded with annuity wrappers. So the same Vanguard funds that you could have owned at UNI are wrapped in fees with the annuity, so you end up paying more. So again, take the time to understand your plan. And if you have good low fee investment options, count your blessings. And if you don't, then it's time to raise some hell and get changes to your plan so you have better low fee options going to serve you well for many years to come. And again, through that process, it's not just about helping yourself, it's about helping everybody within that organization. So now let's take a step and go to my website. This is all about asset allocation. So if you go to the crazymanandthePinkWig.com, if you look at resources, right here, asset allocation basics. So all these resources can help you. Today, we're talking about this. And on this page, you see how to put together an asset allocation. Some of the information I'm talking about today, some recommended books, and then the process of putting together a portfolio as best you can with the options available to you. So there's an 80% stock allocation portfolio. It identifies the investments, what percentage to put in each one, and the dollar amount that goes with that percentage. And then you see the bond allocations as well. So these are guides that you can use to put together a portfolio, which again, I'm always willing to help you. And then the numbers change a little bit if you reduce your stock allocation. You go from 80 to 70, or in this case, 60. And the reason why you're trying to decide these matters is because these are long-standing matters that are going to decide your future returns. Right down here, asset allocation resource, if you hit click here, it will take you to this page. So this page at Vanguard shows you the portfolio allocation models. What has happened based on your asset allocation over time. All of these numbers do not reflect fees. So the way to get numbers that are close to what you see here is to reduce the fees of your portfolio. So in this case, we go back a long time, 1926 to 2020 is almost 100 years. In this case, 95. So what's it tell us about that 100% bond portfolio? Let's say you didn't have any stocks. Over that time period, you would have averaged 6.1%. The best year you ever would have had was 45%, 1982. The worst year, 8.1 in 1969. And 19 out of 95 years, you would have lost money. So that's 100% bonds. Now, if you add some stocks, now your average return per year is up to 7.2%. The best year, not as good. The worst year, a little bit worse. And a few more, actually less years in loss. Notice that. Fewer years in loss as you added just a little bit of stocks. We increased the 30% stocks. Notice how the average return over time goes up from 7.2 to 7.7. We continue to go up. Now we're at 40% stocks. We're up to an 8.2% yearly return average. 50% stocks up to 8.7, 60, 9.1. And now it's 70% stocks, 9.4, and 80%, 9.8. But of course, when you add more stocks to the portfolio, the best year is going to get a little bit better, but the worst year, it's going to get a little bit worse. And you see how many years it takes, or how many years you're going to lose money on average, which is about 1 in 4. About 25% of the time, your stock portfolio is going to lose money within a 4-year time period. 1 out of 4 years, on average, you're going to lose money. That is the price we pay to get good returns over time. So that 9.8% is an average. Some years you averaged 16%, 18%, maybe 20%. Other years you had a negative return, -5, -12, maybe -17. But historically over time, stocks have given us the best bang for the buck as we're patient with the process. We buy and we hold. We keep the fees as low as possible. We diversify all over the world. We keep it simple. We don't mess with it, and we go live our life. And then on occasion, we rebalance the portfolio as needed to get back to where we want with our asset allocation. And that follows whether you're 20, 40, 60, 80 years old. Doesn't matter if you have a lot of money or a little money. This information can guide you down the right path, costing you very little in the way of fees and increasing your returns over time. So it's incredibly important to understand this whole asset allocation game, how to put a portfolio together correctly at the lowest possible cost so you get the best returns over time. Before I leave this page, does anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint. Okay, so as we dug in, we looked at our funds, we looked at our options, we looked where we could find the low fee index funds. Once we identify them, we start investing in them. We want to make sure that as we do that, we also want to make sure that we're looking at the entire portfolio. So if you have investments outside of your retirement plan, like in a Roth IRA somewhere, or in an old retirement plan, or the spouse has investments, you want to make sure you have a total portfolio, a family portfolio that encompasses everything. So we want to be careful not to just look at our 401k or a 403b. We want to look at everything, including money sitting in the bank. And then basically the goal is to get every dollar you have working most efficiently. That is key. Where can each dollar coming into your life work most efficiently for you, not just now, but for years and decades to come? So life in the real world. You might have to do a mix. You might have some crappy options in your 401k. If you do, you want to invest as best you can within those investment options. So that means you might have to invest in some managed funds because you don't have index funds. Well, if you do, then you invest in low fee managed funds. So you're looking throughout the process to make sure that whatever options you have available to you, you're making the best decision with what is there as you try to do better with other plans and other investments you have outside of your plan. And of course, that means sitting down with your spouse, having a conversation about the family portfolio and what is the goal? What are we trying to accomplish? Where are we trying to go? These issues are incredibly important. It's worth the time now to talk about these issues, come up with a plan, and work that plan. Some retirement plans are just bad. We have to face that reality. That's why investing in the real world isn't always so much fun. You can have all the knowledge you want, but some of the investment options are just not there. So let's make sure that you're not paying a load. So you should never, ever pay a load within your retirement plan at work. And again, that means a commission. None of your money should be going toward a commission in your plan. You should not be going through revenue sharing where they're charging you extra fees to pay for the plan. That to me is almost criminal. That is a benefit. You should not be paying for that benefit. So revenue sharing should not be happening. If it is, I'd be pulling together people and saying, let's stop this. We should not be paying for our own plan. At the end of the day, this is your retirement plan. This is your portfolio. This is your future. And your future is going to play out based on what you do today. Make good decisions today. And if some of those decisions are not that great because they're not offered to you, find ways to change that. Stand up and say, we want something better. Again, if you have a bad plan, focus on what you have within there. Pick the best of the crap. The best of the crap. Sometimes that's what you have to do. Don't just give up. You focus on what you can put in there, definitely up to the match. And if your plan is really bad, you may not invest much beyond the match. You may be investing elsewhere in a Roth 401, in a Roth IRA, or in a brokerage account at Vanguard that you can put more money in, and it's not a retirement plan. And so these options are available to you. You're in control with your personal account at a place like Vanguard. You're semi in control of a 401k or a 403b or a 457 for many of you, or even a TSP, which goes for federal employees. Once you leave a organization, take that money with you. Anytime you leave, whether that's by your own doing or you're forced out, it doesn't matter. Transfer that retirement plan to an IRA at Vanguard, traditional to traditional, Roth to Roth. Get control of that money, consolidate it over time, especially the young people in the group. For many of you, you're going to have 5, 6, 7, maybe 10 different employers over time. Do not leave investment accounts just out there. Get control of them, transfer them to Vanguard, get them invested, and keep doing that throughout your lifetime. So what is next? Well, what changes need to be made? Ask yourself that. Once you've identified your situation, what do I need to do next? And listen, if you're a little bit stuck in the mud, as I say, where you're letting fear stop you from taking action because you're afraid of doing something wrong, well, first, I get that. 2, do not let fear stop you from doing what you think is the right thing for your future. Reach out to me. I will sit down with you. We can do it together. We'll get you on a better plan. In the day, you have to figure out what sacrifices you're willing to make. What sacrifices? So if you're choosing to put away a large chunk of your money, let's say 20% of your income, what you're saying is, I have hope for my future. I want a better future. So you're making the sacrifices today to get there. You're investing in you and your future. So it comes down to today. What are you going to do today for a better tomorrow? You got to keep reminding yourself of that, because everything you do today is going to tell us about your future. And then what will you do next week and the week after that? Because that's going to lead to financial freedom, which we'll talk about in later presentations. Financial freedom, the place where you get to do with what you want to do with your life. You've achieved wealth to the level where your portfolio can take care of you. You don't need a job. You may choose to have one, but you don't need one. Financial freedom provides the opportunity for you and I to live out the life we were meant to live. And that's incredibly important. Financial freedom is a wonderful thing. And I'm here to tell you, money by itself is not that great. But money can provide you the kind of freedom that you get to live out for the rest of your life, being the best version of you. Instead of doing what other people want you to do, you're doing what you believe is the best thing for you and your loved ones. So we should all be striving for financial freedom, because that is the place where we get to be our true self. And when we're our true self, that's when we start to create a life worth living. Here are some recommended books. These books will guide you down the path that I'm trying to guide you down as well. Finding the right teachers along the way will help you better understand the path and why you're on it. And it insulates you, by the way. It protects you from all of the crap that you're going to be exposed to in your life when it comes to finances. All the media, all the bad information, the good education you receive protects you from that. Because it's not just about doing the right things, it's about avoiding the mistakes. And those mistakes can have real far-reaching issues for your future. Okay, folks, what questions do you have of me today? Shoot.
I can't speak for the group, but I would assume so. This was just very powerful information, and we really appreciate how you dived into it. And my head is actually just kind of spinning, thinking about things that I need to look back and go back and address. And I've heard similar things you've covered before, but I feel like you really went into detail with it today. And so, yeah, I can't wait to rewatch it. I'm planning to send it out to everybody on the call, or if you email, if we have you in our listserv, we'll definitely send out the copy. And I text the exec team, like, this is one that we truly need to listen to about once a week, just to stay focused and thinking about it and forward facing on our goals. So just thank you so much. And I didn't see any questions in the chat, but if you have any, please feel free to
Gwen
go
had
ahead
a
and
chat.
share.
I got your question, Gwen. So Gwen asked, what if you
have a question.
What if you left some money behind years ago? Go get it. That's my advice. So if you have a retirement plan out there, it could be a defined benefit plan like IPERS. It could be an old pension. It could be an old 401k. Contact that organization, contact who is holding that money,
Okay.
and then request a transfer to Vanguard. And so you would open up a Vanguard IRA. Any pre-tax money goes into a Vanguard traditional IRA, and you would simply direct that institution to send that money, it's not a taxable event, over to Vanguard into the IRA, and then you invest in index funds when it gets there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. That sounds easy.
And it is, well, it mostly is, Gwen. So the reason is some of these organizations, they don't do the best job of helping you transfer money, and some do a pretty good job. So what you have to be tenacious through the process. You got to want to do it, and you're not going to quit until it gets done, because sometimes it can be challenging because you're trying to get a hold of your money and it's almost like they don't want to let go of it. But you have to keep reminding yourself, this is my money. I'm going to take control of it. I'm going to do better with it.
Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, you betcha, Gwen.
Perfect. And Larry Stolte asks, do you recommend an independent guide to Vanguard Fund's monthly newsletter? Can you recommend any, perhaps? Dan Weiner.
Was that a question, Gwen? I didn't hear it.
Oh, it was, yes, from Larry Stolte.
Yep. So I'll read that. Do you recommend an independent guide to Vanguard Fund's monthly newsletter?
Guide.
Yep. So I do not recommend that. So that is an individual who's trying to tell you the right Vanguard funds to be in and time the market. So no, Dan Weiner is not a good source. He's somebody who you should ignore because he's trying to tell you that he knows the right funds to be in at the right times. And he doesn't. Nobody does. Nobody knows the future. So that's why we own different index funds that diversify you all over the world. And when I say he doesn't know, he doesn't know. Just because he acts like he knows doesn't mean he does. And again, Warren Buffett would tell you the same thing. Warren Buffett does not know the future. So if Warren Buffett doesn't know, I promise you Dan Weiner or whoever else talking to you on CNBC or wherever else doesn't know. So that's why we have to be so vigilant about ignoring people who tell us when to time the market, when to get in, when to get out, and what particular funds are going to do best. They don't know.
Okay, great. And does anyone else have any questions? I'm looking in the chat. Going back, make sure I didn't miss anything.
So I'm going to pick on Danita a little bit here. So Danita's been through this multiple presentations. Well, she gathered knowledge, but she did something. She reached out to me. We helped her get on the right path, and she's on that right path. So she took action. So she's a wonderful example of somebody who says, okay, I can learn this. I can understand it well enough to say I need to make a change. And with Mike's help, I'll get there. And she did that. So we have people within our group here who are doing the things they need to do. Make that you.
Mike, this is Morris.
Yes, sir.
And so in essence, what you're saying when it comes like CNBC and like that, when doing stocks and all of that, we really should not listen to what they're saying.
Correct. It's pretty much a clown show. If you want to watch it for entertainment purposes and laugh, go right ahead. But if you want education and information on investing, they should be ignored, because almost the whole day is spent on telling you what they think the future is going to hold. They don't know the future. And we should ignore anybody who tells us they somehow have some great insight into what markets are going to do. Nobody knows that.
Thank you.
So question is, are these sessions uploaded on YouTube? So Joy will work on that. You can also go to my YouTube channel, which you can find on the bottom of my page on the Crazy Man in the Pink Wig website. And I have probably over 100 different videos that you could watch in relation to what topic you're trying to learn on. So the videos are there either through Joy or through my YouTube channel. They're there. Yes, Joy is right. We will not join in the clown show. Yes, Joy, I agree.
So Mike, this is Gwen again.
Yep.
One of the things that Joy, Robert, and I have discussed is how do we get younger people, and I'm talking people maybe in their 20s and 30s, how do we get them interested and bring them forward? When we start to talk about things like investment portfolio, stocks and bonds, it sounds frightening. And I mean, I speak for myself to some degree. At that age, those words were words that I said, nope, don't understand it, not getting involved.
Yep.
How do we talk to them to bring them forward to what's the best thing for them?
So one, I can tell you that it's an issue I deal with consistently as well. And there are many young people I don't connect to. But here's what I have found that can be effective. You talk about financial freedom. So don't talk about retirement. No 20-year-old wants to hear about retiring well. Talking about investments can be helpful for some, but many of them, that is not of great interest, or they think it's too difficult. But most young people love the idea of having the financial freedom to do what they want to do with their life. And so by getting control of your money and your investments at a young age, you can put yourself on a path toward financial freedom in your 30s and 40s. And that financial freedom gives them a chance to truly do what they want to do with their life. And that message can connect with a lot of young people. And so that's a message I try to share with them, that you can do all of this, and all this leads to that place called financial freedom, where you are the creator of your future life. You're the person who's running your life instead of someone else.
Thank you.
You bet.
I was gonna say, Mike, in regards to what you're talking about there, a lot of high schools, they will have sort of like a, personal finance class they have to take. But, that's where like your videos, I know some people package, but, to try to get in there and to all of these students to understand what it's about and hear the truth. Because many of them, they'll bring in financial advisors and they'll tell them all the glory stories of everything, how you make more money, but in actuality, you're padding their wallet too. So it's like when I grew up, I had an insurance guy that was, setting me up on insurance and everything. And then every winter, he would send me a postcard from Hawaii. And he would say, I wish you were here. And after about 2 years of that, I said, when I saw him, I said, I'm not giving you any more money to go to Hawaii. I'm going somewhere else. So that was way too much.
Yes, Morris. So you're exactly right. And again, that's the self-empowerment of a financial education, that you can do this yourself. And I speak to many high schools, different high school principals and teachers bring me in. And it is about exposing them to this information at a young age, even when sometimes they're not quite ready to hear it. If we can expose them to it, it might speed them up toward the place where they're ready to hear it. And if we can get there, if we can start to get them thinking about it at a young age, then possibly we could get them started in their teenage years or their early 20s.
Alrighty. Well, we are 2 minutes past 11, but this has been a phenomenal session this morning. And much like what Mike said, I think we were getting the information. And so if you're looking for additional input on how that can apply to your specific information, highly recommend reaching out to Mike as well. And then keep attending our sessions to get more and more information. And again, he does have tons of videos. We will send the recording out, and we're working on getting them all uploaded to our YouTube channel as well, so that the specific ones that you hear, you can actually go back and replay as many times as needed. Because again, I think every time we hear these presentations, there's just more and more that you take away from them. So I want to thank everyone for joining us this morning. And also, Mike, again, thank you so much for what you do. And I mean, for me, that was just a game changer, even when I talk to young people versus talking about retirement, talk about financial freedom. And that, because that's in, I work in a high school, and that's one of the things that they often ask is like, how much money do you make, right? And so connecting this to how much money you can have in life, I mean, yeah, that would definitely be a draw for young people. So just want to thank you for donating so much of your time, and definitely support Mike Finley. The man, the crazy man in the pink wig is the brand. So please do support it. He has some wonderful books that will help as well. So, and again, bring a friend next week. Mike, someone put in there, what's our YouTube channel, or what's your YouTube channel?
Yep. So if they just go into Mike Finley, Crazy Man, Pink Wig, it'll show up. You can also go to my website, thecrazymanandthePinkWig.com, and go all the way down to the bottom, and you'll see a link to my YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. And so with that said, we're going to wrap up. Thanks everyone again. And again, thank you so much, Mike. And everyone have a great rest of your Saturday. I'll get this sent out by this afternoon today for those who either are on our email listserv, or if not, if you have my contact information and you're not on there, then I'll forward it to you. Just shoot me over an email and we'll get it out. And I'll email it to Mike as well, so he'll have it as well. So, all righty.
Thank you, Joy.
Alrighty, everyone have a great, thank you, Mike. Everyone have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
You also have a great weekend.